my husband has purchased one item of clothing off of the internet, and it's a t-shirt that has, it's the best t-shirt in the world. It has a picture of a brown bear with a wolf t-shirt on and a revolver in his hand, and he's riding a shark which is leaping out of water with an atomic bomb going off in the background. And you don't know whether they're escaping the bomb or if they just set it off. It just looks amazing.
You know he means business every time
That's
he's
right.
sure.
Yeah.
Your husband says bears rock?
I'm Terra McBride. If you don't know me, I'm either at Spicy Meatball or Stylish White Female, SWF, one of those things. I started blogging just about a year ago, and so I'm not really sure exactly what I'm going to tell you that's new and interesting, but we'll see where this takes us. And please feel free to shout out any questions or comments or any sort of dialogue. This is totally open. So this presentation is kind of how I went from being a relative lurker on the internet to creating content. And really, I say that my social life on the internet started when I was in college. So in 1998, I was like a sophomore or junior in college. And instead of going on spring break, I would sit in this horribly uncomfortable wooden chair that we put a pillow on. It was a folding chair. So uncomfortable. I would sit in that chair for hours every night of my spring break and chat in Yahoo chat rooms, which, if you're thinking it, I'm going to tell you it makes me a big dork. I didn't go party in Cancun. I was literally in chat rooms until the sun would come up. But what I found is that I was starting to learn how to talk to people online, because it is a different way of communicating, and it's a way to try and express who you are, and there is a slight art to it, although anybody can learn it. So chat rooms were my first foray into social media, and then I don't know if anybody remembers ICQ. That was my next step. It was sort of like instant messaging, and I actually met a guy. It wasn't for me. I met this guy that my friend had met online on ICQ. He was from Italy, and he was in an exchange program, and we drove to the house that he was at. So not safe. And met him and introduced ourselves to him and spent the day with him. And it was just sort of like that first time that you meet somebody from the internet, and it was really weird and nerve-wracking, but pretty awesome at the same time. And then from ICQ, I started in about 2003. That's when my husband and I started dating. And he was posting in the Pearl Jam message board. And so he was talking about how he had this big following in the Pearl Jam message board, blah, blah, blah. And so I decided to find out what this big following was all about. And so I joined the Pearl Jam message board. And I had no idea what an avatar was. This when I figured it out, this was my first. Yes, that's Ralph Wiggum picking his nose. And it's funny because people started recognizing me as that. Online, my online friends, they're like, all I can picture is Ralph Wiggum picking his nose when I think of you. And, it was just sort of like, that was the first real, we met that one guy, but he wasn't really my friend. It was with the message board that I really started to build these incredible relationships. So, one thing that I think that people forget, especially people that that are sort of resistant to building relationships online or making friends online and then having that translate into your real life. The conversations that you have online are they're very, very real. And I actually read a study, and I can't cite it, I apologize, but that there have been studies done on the way that people react to online relationships. So how does their heart rate get affected, and what sort of chemicals are running through their body when they have a positive experience online, and it's identical to the ones that they have in real life. So obviously, the relationships you build online are real relationships, and so are the friends. So I've met some unbelievable people that have been our friends since 2003, and when I say our friends, it's me and my husband. And these people, they're at our wedding, we spend New Year's with them. We go to cities, we go to their cities and spend time with them. They invite us into their homes. we do things that we never would have gotten to do. Like my husband's on a hot dog tour now in eastern Pennsylvania, and he's done that several years, and it's all because of the internet. I stopped on this is my husband. I don't know if you guys can even see that because of the light, but my husband, myself, and this guy here, that's his wife. This is on our 2nd anniversary at Bedford Springs. We met on a message board. I mean, they celebrated our 2nd anniversary with us. That's how much they mean to us. And the point is that when you're engaging on social media, you need to treat it like these are relationships, these are valuable people. When they're commenting or saying something to you, that's valuable because they think, they know you. And on some level they do. So in about 2007, this was after MySpace. Yeah. So after MySpace, so over MySpace. After MySpace, obviously, Facebook opened up to the general public, so we got on Facebook and started engaging with friends and people that I hadn't seen since I was, 15 and angry. And didn't really want to necessarily see them again, but it actually was really great to reconnect with a lot of people. So Facebook was another way, sort of like another step after that message board, another way to connect with people. And then obviously Twitter, 2007 was about the same time that I got involved with Twitter. And actually, this is Chris Brogan. He spoke at PodCamp, I think the 2nd year that I was here, and it was after that PodCamp that I decided I wanted to try out Twitter. Everybody was talking about how their phones were buzzing in their pocket whenever they would say something, and I'm like, what is this Twitter thing? So I just started doing it and quickly became addicted, and amazingly enough met, again, more people, especially locally. I met some amazing people. Some that I just literally met face-to-face today, and it's one of those things where you hug them instantaneously because you talk every day, all day in these spaces, and these conversations and relationships, like I said, are very, very real. So finding my social voice. In November of last year, I decided that I wanted to start blogging, and I'm not really sure why I decided I wanted to start blogging, but I guess I saw a hole in the Pittsburgh market for personal style blogs. My friend, Ashley, who happens to be sitting right there, can you not, she sent me the link to this blog called What I Wore, and Jessica Schroeder, who's now Jessica Quirk, she's amazing. She's a personal style blogger. She's been doing it for 2 years, a little over 2 years now, and I just really got sucked in. Her style was beautiful. Her blog was really easy to read and was really lovely. And so I literally spent my entire, this again, another vacation spent online. I spent my entire Thanksgiving break reading all of her back posts and then looking at her blog roll and going through her blog roll and seeing their posts. And at the end of the vacation, I looked at my husband and I said, I think that I want to start a style blog. And he went, okay, whatever. So that's where I really got started. It literally was inspired by somebody else. And so one of the things, what did I say back here? I knew that my focus was going to be on personal style, and I also wanted Pittsburgh to be a big part of my blog. I love this city. I really wanted to showcase the really amazing things that are in Pittsburgh. The beautiful architecture, the fact that we actually do have sun that shines here every now and then. It's not just rain and snow and cloudiness. And so that I knew that that's where my focus was going to be. And then I also knew, I wanted to see who was talking about what and how I could fit into that conversation. The next part, this starts to get into who has a blog here? Anybody blogging? Okay. So it's really important that if you want people to know about your blog, that you talk about it with them. And Twitter and Facebook are the sort of the vehicles that allow that to happen. So I highly recommend, if you're not tweeting and if you don't have a Facebook page, for your blog specifically, not necessarily a personal Facebook page, to create one, to create those accounts and start talking to people. It's not something you should be embarrassed about to talk about yourself or to be proud of what you're doing online. You need to tell people these things so that they know about them. The only reason that anybody knows about my blog is because I have shamelessly promoted it as much as possible. That being said, don't be a jerk. Talk to people. How would you feel if your friend never asked about you? So you can't use these vehicles as just a push for your information or a push for your blog. You literally need, this goes back to that relationship building, you need to engage with people and ask them about their lives and their interests, comment on the things that they're posting, and really start to have a conversation. And then they will reciprocate and start to show you support. Optimize that shit. So if you are looking to really start to grow your blog, you want to concentrate on optimizing your blog. And there was a session this morning that I unfortunately was not able to attend about optimizing, search engine optimization. So I'm hoping that some of you were able to attend it. You need data. And so I highly recommend, I personally use Google Analytics and Google Web Tools and Yahoo Web Tools. It helps you understand how people are finding you, where they're coming from, what countries they're in, what cities they're in. And that will help drive the way that you write and tag, et cetera, et cetera. Tag. If you have images on your website, make sure you're tagging them. And I wasn't doing that in the beginning, and I'm assuming that you know Norm. He and I had a lunch, and he was asking me questions. He said, so are you tagging your images? Are you tagging your posts? And I said, well, I'm just kind of uploading my images and then pulling them from PhotoBucket and slapping them up on the page. I'm not adding descriptions. I wasn't really tagging them. It's so important to have those keywords that you're finding from your analytics on your tags.
Hey, Terra.
Yes.
Where exactly do you tag pictures? I'm confused. Like, how do you do that?
So I upload my pictures to PhotoBucket.
Okay.
You can tag them and add descriptions and titles through PhotoBucket. And then when you pull them from PhotoBucket, all of that information is on it.
Okay.
What do you use?
Well, like, I just edit everything in Lightroom, and you can tag there, but I don't know if that translates to the internet. And then I just upload it on my actual server.
Okay. That's beyond me, to be honest. I'm not super tech savvy, honestly. I mean, I know enough about what I'm doing, and that's been working. I'm not sure. That would definitely be a question that I would ask somebody that knows coding and programming to find out if anything crawls that way.
So did you go back and retag your old photos? Or will that be your next vacation?
That'll be my next vacation. Yeah, my husband started getting sick of the glow of a computer screen on my face. He nicknamed me Kenny Bloggins. He's like, are you Kenny Bloggins tonight? I went to the danger zone. Like, no, I don't want to be known as the woman that doesn't get off the computer. I'm on a computer all day, and then I probably spend 2 to 3 hours on a post at night, editing pictures, getting them uploaded, then writing. So you have to figure out a balance between, being on the computer, engaging with your fans and followers and your friends, and unplugging and engaging in real life, because real life is happening and you don't want to miss it. Create relevant links. So I assume that you guys know this, but I'm going to underscore it anyway. Never, ever use text like click here for your links, ever. You should be using relevant keywords in the body of your post to link out to other sites. So, for example, let's say you're talking about your favorite pizza, and there's this one place that you love to go to. Pizza Sola in the South Side is amazing, da-da-da-da-da. If you talk about Pizza Sola, highlight Pizza Sola and link to their website from Pizza Sola. Not, if you want more information about Pizza Sola, click here, and then have that be the button. That doesn't help your search engine optimization at all. So make sure that you're using the right kinds of words for your links. Also, link back to your old posts. So once you start getting more and more content, you can reference things that you've already talked about. Well, when you make that reference, maybe you have new readers that weren't there in the beginning, and they won't know anything about what you're talking about. So link back to that old post. Now you're basically telling your own, that the crawlers, the spiders, that your content is relevant amongst itself, which is good. Plus, it just makes it easier for your readers to find other information. build relationships with like-minded bloggers, and they will start to link back to you. So I've actually had a couple of posts on That's Church, and there is a clear difference in my analytics whenever Virginia mentions stylish white female. And people come to the blog and they check it out, and there's a big difference because she has a tremendous following. And I wouldn't have that relationship with her if it wasn't for Twitter and commenting on her blog and reading her blog since I moved to Pittsburgh, basically. So you need to, and although she's not necessarily a style blogger, she is a Pittsburgh blogger, which, as I mentioned, is one of the two things that are most important to me with this blog. So it's not necessarily relevant in terms of the focus of my blog, but it's certainly relevant in terms of the region that I'm trying to represent. Register your URL. This is something I literally just did. I went to a summit in New York City last week, and the SEO, they were talking about SEO and making sure that you're, again, more self-promotion, getting your blog on these engines so that people can find them, and then tagging them with relevant keywords, those sorts of things. It's a really easy step that I can't believe I didn't do sooner. Your for-profit education. So did anybody listen to Bird Baby earlier, Michelle? So she talked a lot about how she does have advertising on her blog, but she's not comfortable necessarily with seeking out advertisers. So I talked to her afterwards and I said, I really wish that I was partnering with you or doing my presentation right after you, because that is something that I'm trying to do. And you might think it's selling out, and that's okay. I don't think so. I spend a lot of hours in a week doing what I do, and I really love what I do, and I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that there's value to that. So, and that's how you have to think about it. There's value to what you're writing and the things that you're doing. And you started it because you wanted a creative outlet. But do you want to take it to the next step? That's a personal choice. For me, I'm trying to do that. But you cannot, so when I say you want to make money from your blog, that can't be the reason why you're blogging. If you're blogging because you want to make money, stop right now, because it's just not going to work out. If you're honest and you're true, the followers and the sponsors will come. It's everybody, you know this. Everybody knows this. When you're online, if you're not being authentic, people know it. They pick up on it right away, and they get tired of it, and they're not going to stick around. So again, this goes back to relationship building and being as unveiled as you possibly can. I'm actually in the process of doing this. It's not the easiest thing to do, but create a media kit, have it on your website. Do a little research on what your peers, fellow bloggers that are focused on what you're doing. Talk to them. Ask some questions. How did they determine what sorts of ad levels that they were going to have, and then build a media kit that's right for you and that you feel comfortable with it. Put it on your website. That way, people know when they're approaching you that you do expect compensation for your work. It's not like you're going to do things for free, and that's okay. Don't be afraid to pitch yourself. So you put a media kit together, you can wait for the advertisers to come to you, the sponsors to come to you, or if you want to work with it, at this summit that I was just at, there were a couple of brands there, and somebody said, if I want to work with XYZ brand, what should I do? And they all said, just send us an email. Send us your URL, send us your media kit. If we like what we see, we'll start a conversation about it. What are they going to do? They'll just ignore your email. If they don't like it, they move on. What have you got to lose? So if you want to make a little money on your blog and you want to work with a specific brand, throw it out there. Why not? It's an email. No big deal. Again, don't be afraid to say that what you're doing has value. Be mindful of your layout. So when I first started, I used Tumblr. It works for me. WordPress is another great interface. Blogger, really good. I've used that too. Tumblr was just the one that I sort of landed on in the beginning. And my template was one column. It was a black background, one column, and you had to scroll all the way down. And I know some HTML, but I don't know enough to divide up columns and start really messing with the layout. So it made me nervous to try and do that. And I got sponsors before I was able to tweak my layout. So my poor sponsors were at the very bottom after 10 posts. And one of them sent me a message and said, it might be helpful if you were able to bump up the sponsored, icon up higher so that when your readers come on, it's one of the first things they see. And I was in the middle of a redesign, and I just wrote back, I said, I'm really sorry. I'm trying really hard to get this all worked out. I promise that you will be up there as fast as possible. And now my layout is a little bit cleaner. It has a white background. I'm able to have the sponsors up on the top right so that when you log in, that's what you see. So just if you're going to need to have different separate pieces of information along with your blog posts, just think about how it's easy to read, or what's the easiest way for somebody to consume your information and still have like relevant things on the right-hand side or left-hand side, whichever works for you. Your first impressions, and this is sort of tied into what I was just talking about. I love what you write. I hate reading your blog. So you could have the best content, right? You write really well. You got great pictures. But if people, A, can't see your pictures because they're like super tiny, or the font is off, or you have like a black background with green text on it. I mean, I really do appreciate when people try and think outside of the box with their layout. But really be mindful of what it's like for somebody to read your blog. You can sometimes get lost in design, but really think about the blog is yours, and you can do with it what you please. But if you want to grow your readership, it needs to be easily consumed. So be careful about what your layout looks like. So with that said, I thought that I would just, for anybody who hasn't seen it, just check out my blog, and it's huge. Sorry. So like I said before, it was just like one column. Now we have 2 columns. I'm able to, we created some links on the top. Community choice, so you want to sort of differentiate yourself from other people doing the same thing. Community choice was my big differentiator, I guess. There was one day that I posted, and this was pretty early on. It must have been like December or January. And I didn't know what shoes to wear with an outfit. So I posted 3 different options, and I had more comments that day than I had ever on my blog. And I thought, whoa, people really like to give me their opinion on what I'm wearing. And it's not really enough for them to come on and just be like, wow, you look super adorable today. That's so awesome. And I love those. But what people really wanted to do was be able to say, I like this, not that, or you should wear that with these shoes instead, or don't wear tights, or whatever. Again, it's that engagement. It's that being connected with what I'm doing and having a say in what the community ends up looking like. So community choice, this is a big call out, so that if you click on this, you'll see all the community choice posts. If you do get published, if another blog publishes you, have a section where people can go and see that. It sort of legitimizes what you're doing when third parties are endorsing it for you. Of course, you have like your connections. So if you're on Facebook and Twitter, you can have that information there. And then I have sponsorships on this side and content on this side. And you're constantly tweaking. There are so many things that I want to change about this blog. It's just, this is the second iteration. So I'm always looking, I'll post and then I'll read and reread and reread my posts, just because I'm trying to figure out what I can tweak and change so that it's easier for the reader, or it's geared more towards what they're looking for. So let's see. So that's generally where I'm at as a blogger. Does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Can you explain the media kit again?
Sure. Yeah, sure. I sometimes forget that not everybody works in marketing or PR, so media kits aren't really at top of mind for everybody. It doesn't have to be anything super extensive. Your media kit is really just going to sort of lay out who you are and what you can offer advertisers. So you would likely put a little bit of information about analytics, maybe what your monthly readership is, generally average. This is how much traffic we have. What your cost is. If somebody were to buy an ad or sponsor your blog, how much is it per 1,000 page views or whatever? However you want to structure that. And then there can be certain levels. So do they want just an icon on the right-hand side for a month? Do they want to buy 6 months? Do they want to do a sponsored post? And how many times do they expect for you to mention them in their post in a week? So there are various levels that you can, but you have to determine based on how you post, what your layout is like, what your readership is like, to determine what you're comfortable with. But you would just, have some analytics, lay out maybe what the size, the pixels are for a banner or for like an icon, and that's really it. It doesn't need to be more than, I would say, 2 or 3 pages. Yeah. More questions? Yes.
I've never blogged, just learned about it. When you got it started, was it just, hey, would you guys be willing to read my blog via your contact list, or how did you?
Well, I started with my friends and family. They're the easies, They're like, oh yeah, sure, we'll read, we'll support you. So I posted it on my personal Facebook page every day. I post every day, except for Saturdays. I've tried to cut back, but except for Saturdays. But I post every day, so people know that they can come every day. And Community Choice is always on Sunday nights and is announced on Tuesdays. So there's a consistency. People know what they're getting each week. And then, I started with Facebook, and I was posting links to my blog on Twitter. And I would just say, started a blog, can you check it out? Or, I call them daily duds because I take pictures of my clothes every day. Like, daily duds are up. I might do a little bit about what the blog post is about, but you only have 140 characters, so, I kept it pretty brief. But pushing on those vehicles as much as possible, get the support that you already have. If you have coworkers, it's just, and I'm guilty of this. My boss is a tremendous supporter of my blog, and I told her that I was speaking here yesterday, and she said, why didn't you tell your coworkers? It just never dawned on me that would be appropriate. So if it's something that you're able to do, tell your coworkers, send out an email. Here, we have this blog. It's, this is the content. We'd love for you to check it out.
So the Community Choice is when they opine on what you should wear?
They vote, yeah. Here, I'll show you one. Let's see if I can find it.
Terra, somebody from online asked if you think Penn State will win the Big Ten this year. Just as guest, I don't know who it is.
Guest. Is guest a Pitt fan? That's a question for my husband. Probably not. We have a true freshman quarterback. It's going to be tough. And one today. Okay, so Community Choice. This week, this is when I was on the plane. So I needed some help picking what I was going to wear on a plane ride to go to New York. And this is such a hideous, so nasty. I had just gone for a run, sorry. So I picked 3 outfits, I put them together. I usually try to have one piece that I style 3 different ways. This was a little bit different because it was for the plane ride, but here it was a pair of jeans. And then people comment and they let me know which one they like the best. This one, it was this jacket. They pick which one they like and they comment. So see, this has 50 comments. My daily posts never get 50 comments. It's rare, unless I'm doing some sort of event post. Like, for example, I usually obviously post outfit pictures and talk about my day, but on occasion I'm sort of expected to comment on something. So like when Sex and the City 2 came out, people were like, well, what do you think about it? And I was like, nobody really wants to hear what I think about it because I think it sucks. And I'm not going to go see it. And so I posted this really long rant about Sex and the City. And so that gets some dialogue going. It gets people wanting to talk about it. And I hated it too. Or I don't agree with what you said about Miranda. I'm like, okay. But it's good because it gets people talking. And so sometimes when I post something that's controversial. I mean, I never post anything really controversial, but if you're talking about style controversy, I guess it was controversial. It gets people talking and it gets people engaging in a different sort of way than just, sort of like, look at me jumping in front of my camera posts. So I highly recommend kind of putting yourself out there a little bit. If you're not super comfortable with, really getting political or talking about something that's controversial, make it pretty easy controversy, something that people won't get nuts about, and you'll be amazed at how engaged they get. When you ask questions, people want to talk. So I definitely.
That's cool how you can find it to like one day a week, versus it being
yeah.
It's like an event.
Yeah. And when I don't do it, people get upset.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So you work full time and you do a blog. How do you do it? I mean, seriously, because I know it takes a lot of time to interact with other people and write blogs and post them. So when do you sleep and your husband still loves you?
I don't. That's questionable. That's questionable. He's calling me Kenny Bloggins, for goodness sakes. I don't know how she loves me. No, he is 100% supportive, but he has had to pull me aside and say, you say yes so much. You need to maybe dial it down a bit. And that's, when I decided, okay, Saturdays are my free days. And I have to constantly remind myself that it's my blog. It's my blog. I choose when I work on it. Nobody else does. And so I don't need to put this pressure on myself to post every day if I don't have to. I want to, and I try really, really hard. This week, it just did not happen. I left my camera in a cab in New York, so that obviously is the lifeline of my blog. I didn't post as much this week. I was preparing for today. It just didn't happen. So I don't know how I do it. I mean, sometimes I'm up early, and that's when I'm responding to comments, or I'm talking on other people's blogs and commenting on their posts. There was I have a blog lovin'. I don't know if you know blog lovin', but you can put in any of the URLs that you like to follow, and it'll just aggregate everything for you, so you can click right through to the blog from blog lovin'. My reader probably has like 500 new posts, and I haven't touched any of them, and I feel awful because I really admire these women, and I think they're doing great things, and I want to tell them that, but you just have to find a balance. So what I did was that I found these certain bloggers that I have a pretty good relationship with, and I consistently am talking to them and posting on their blogs and showing them, support. Probably 2 or 3 times a week I'll go and I'll post on their blog, and they post on my blog. And then I try really hard on Saturday mornings. I know I'm not posting on Saturday mornings, but I'm up and sort of like, hanging around the house. My computer's on. I'll click through on the blogs of commenters, find their blog and check out what they're doing and talk to them on their blog, because they're constantly coming to mine. I think that it's definitely worthwhile to go and see what they're doing and show them support too. So it's just, you really have to find what works for you and your schedule. And I am here to tell you, I go to bed at 10 o'clock every night. Well, not the weekends, but 10 o'clock every night, every work night. It's very important to me to be in bed at a decent hour. So if I can't get it done by 10 o'clock at night, I'm not going to do it that night. So it's tough. Sometimes it's lunch hours. For a long time, I was taking my pictures in the morning and then posting at lunch. And now that I have a GorillaPod, which is like a little grippy tripod, I take my pictures down. I work downtown, so I take my pictures out and about downtown and usually post right after work. Like, I literally come home, sometimes I'll work out and sit down at the computer, post, and then eat dinner.
What kind of camera do you use?
Well, I had a Sony Cyber... Oh, dear. I had a Sony CyberShot DSC-H10. It had a 10 times zoom, 8.1 megapixels, I think. It's a nice camera. It's a point and shoot, but it's nice. And right now, my friend has let me borrow, it's a Nikon D40. It takes pretty, sorry, that's okay. It takes really nice pictures. It's pretty sharp. So, and you can get different lenses and things like that. But you can really do, and the other tool that I use that I think is really, really helpful, if you don't want to spend the money on a software like Photoshop, I use GIMP. It's a little bit clunky, but it does everything that I need for it to do. I can lighten my levels on my photos. I can do some color washing in it that really kind of sharpens them up a bit. and it's free. It's a free download. Any other questions?
If you have like a regular blog, how do you get those? You know, you said link the words to a word and take it somewhere else. Well, my blog just does it for me and takes it to some, like, is there a way to turn that off? Do you know?
Which platform do you use?
I have WordPress thesis theme.
Okay. I have to imagine there's a way to shut that off.
Yeah.
Although every WordPress blog I go to, I think it does that. Is it the free version, or
No, it's not.
you've paid for it?
Mm-hmm.
I have to imagine you can shut that off. I'm just not sure how you would do that. I would just honestly Google search.
It's probably a plugin.
Yeah.
Need to delete.
I'm sorry. It's she uses WordPress, and so when she posts, WordPress automatically takes certain words in her post. I don't know if you've ever seen like a dotted line underneath a word, and if you mouse over it, it'll pull up a bunch of different websites.
So you can
she's
turn
looking for
that
a way to
off.
shut that off.
Yeah.
There must be something in the settings. I just
Yeah, there has to be a way to. I'm sure it's a plugin.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question.
It's okay. I don't mind at all.
How did you get your first sponsors? Did you go after them yourself?
Actually, okay, my first sponsor was you. Let me give my little sponsors a little love. My first sponsor was you, and when I came to Pittsburgh, Jupe was one of the first little boutiques that somebody took me to, and literally I would probably say that like 65 to 70% of my wardrobe comes from Jupe. So I was already, and when I post, I outline where I got everything. So I was already posting Jupe links constantly. And they know me when I come in the store. They didn't know my name necessarily, but they knew who I was when I walked in. So they approached me. They saw me post. All of a sudden I had this new blog, and they found it somehow. And they posted something on their Facebook page that said, "New bloggers, you might be featured." And I thought, oh my God, I love Jupe. I wonder who's the new blogger in Pittsburgh. And I clicked through, and it was me. And so they contacted me shortly after that and said, you know, we really love what you're doing. We'd love to partner with you. Let's talk. And that's where it started. And ModCloth was one that took a little bit more work. But ModCloth has a structure, a business model that focuses on sponsoring style bloggers and fashion bloggers. So they're already doing that kind of a search. And then I believe I was approached by Crazy Hot Clothes too. So I haven't actually pitched for sponsors yet. It'll be interesting to see how that works when I do try and do that, because it is a little bit of a nerve-wracking experience. But yeah, I mean, it's just they were local businesses that I already had relationships with, and then they found out I was blogging and thought it would be a good fit.
And how's this partnership work for you? I mean, how the deal is structured? I mean, what you get from it?
Well, I won't talk specifically about what.
Generally.
Yeah, in general, Jupe in particular, they let me borrow clothes, and then I can do a post, like a sponsored post from Jupe. I do a monthly must-have. They'll let me borrow the clothes, style them, take pictures, and then I give them back. And then they also do give me some clothes, so that if you see anything that says courtesy of on my blog, it was a gift. So.
Do you have any experience when they actually pay you, like to promote them, or just post a link to the site or something?
Jupe probably has. We have a sort of monetary relationship. The others, it's more of a trade. Crazy Hot Clothes, I borrow their clothes, but they say you can borrow them for as long as you need. And then if they sell, just give them back. Or they're a vintage shop, so their stuff is already used. I don't feel so bad touching them. But no, ModCloth is another one that they actually have a structure where they use a program called Commission Junction. And so they give you the icons that you can put on your website, and when people click through on your website, you get, if they shop on ModCloth, then I would get a percentage of that. Any other questions? Well, I am always available. Social media is a 24/7 business. So you can feel free. Follow me at Spicy Meatball. I would love to chat with you. And if you're here, then obviously I think that you're the types of people that love social media. So I'd love to connect with you. So have a great rest of the day and tomorrow as well. So thank you.